Let me tell you something right now that most folks around the world don't even want to admit. India's Arjun tank has scared the living daylights out of military analysts across continents. But you won't see them saying it on CNN or BBC. Oh no, they're too proud for that. Too busy talking about their own tanks, their own power, their own glory, but behind closed doors. Behind the polished boardroom doors of defense ministries, in the smoke-filled corridors of think tanks, they're whispering the same thing. India did what? With that asterisk tank. That's the conversation they don't want the public to hear. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna lay it all out plain and honest, because the truth deserves to roar just like the Arjun MBT rolling across the Thar desert. See, here's what people forget. India didn't build the Arjun tank just to join some military parade. No, India built that beast because it was tired of depending on foreign technology, tired of importing someone else's defense doctrine, tired of fighting modern battles with yesterday's weapons. The Arjun was a statement. A roar, a bold move that said, asterisk, we're done playing catch-up. We lead now. Asterisk, and you best believe that ruffled feathers. Because when a nation like India, rich in culture, ancient in wisdom, and now modern in firepower, steps onto the battlefield with its own asterisk machinery, people get nervous. People start checking their satellite images. People start sweating. The Arjun isn't just a tank, it's a message. A 58.5-ton message with a rifled gun, composite armor, and a fire control system that'll pick your vehicle out from miles away and turn it into metal confetti before you even know what hit you. But you know what gets me. They don't want to admit it. They'll say it's too heavy. They'll say it doesn't match the terrain. They'll say it's got logistic problems. That's the classic move right there. Discredit what you fear. You afraid of a lion? You say he limps. You afraid of a thunderstorm? You say it's just a little rain. But fear's a funny thing. It shows in your eyes even when your lips try to lie. Now let's be real. The Arjun wasn't perfect on day one. No great creation ever is. But instead of throwing it away, India doubled down, it refined it, upgraded it, turned it from a test model into a battlefield monster. You think America got the M1 Abrams right on the first try. You think Russia's T-14 Armata didn't stall or break down during testing. Every superpower had to eat dirt before it stood tall. But when India stumbles, oh, they love to point fingers. Oh, look, India's tank overheated. Yeah, and your billion-dollar jets crash in clear skies, but nobody talks about that, do they? The Arjun tank, version Mark 1A, that's where it gets real. That's where the beast wakes up. We're talking about 14 major upgrades. We're talking automatic target tracking, explosive reactive armor, thermal imaging, and a laser rangefinder so accurate it could probably read your blood pressure from a mile away. That's not just power, that's intelligence, that's precision, that's asterisk Indian engineering meeting battlefield necessity. Asterisk, and the beauty of it, it's asterisk ours. Asterisk, no foreign components calling the shots, no waiting for overseas shipments. This is made by Indian hands, driven by Indian soldiers, protected by Indian tech. That's sovereignty in motion, right there. And let me tell you what that means to the world. It's not just about steel and firepower. It's about what comes asterisk next. Asterisk, if India can build tanks like this, what else is it quietly preparing? If India can roll out something that powerful without blinking, what's under the hood for the next round of surprises? That's what scares them. That's why they stay silent. That's why they try to bury the success under criticism, because the world has never known what it's like when a billion minds rise together not just for peace, but with the capacity for war. You think China isn't watching? Oh, they're watching real close. You think Pakistan's sleeping at night? Please. Every time an Arjun rolls through Rajasthan during drills, you best believe their radar operators are gripping their consoles a little tighter. Because the old image of India, the one where it just absorbs, just reacts, just defends, that image is gone, dead and buried. Now India takes initiative. India asterisk builds. Asterisk India asterisk strikes asterisk if provoked. And when a country with moral clarity starts matching that with technological confidence, asterisk now you've got something the world fears. Asterisk I'll break it down for you simple. The Arjun tank represents three things no one wants to see in the same sentence: indigenous power, unpredictable innovation, and undeniable success. Let me repeat that: indigenous power, unpredictable innovation, and undeniable success. That's the trifecta that keeps Western analysts tossing and turning, because the model they sold the world was always this: we build, you buy; we lead, you follow. But now, India builds its own weaponry, tests its own doctrines, writes its own future. That asterisk flips the script. Asterisk, and don't get me started on the psychological warfare angle. You ever seen a country roll a tank into its border zone that says we didn't borrow this? We asterisk made asterisk this. That does something to a soldier's mind. That plants a seed that says, this enemy ain't what we thought they were. That's not just intimidation, it's demoralization, because it's not just the tank, it's what it asterisk symbolizes. Asterisk strength, autonomy, clarity of purpose. See, every nation has its battles, but not every nation has the stomach to fight them on its terms. India does. India asterisk chose asterisk to build the Arjun not because it had to, but because it asterisk could. Asterisk, that's the difference. When you move from necessity to capability, you cross a line. And when you cross that line, oh, the world pays attention, silently, reluctantly, but make no mistake, they're watching. And then you've got the drama of global defense politics. You know how it works. One superpower sells weapons to another. One alliance forms to counter another. But here comes India, not only stepping out of the buyer line, but making machines better suited to its unique terrain, climate, and doctrine. That's smart war. Making, that's customization. That's the kind of independence they don't like. Because if India doesn't need their tanks today, maybe it won't need their jets tomorrow. Maybe next it'll build its own satellites, submarines, energy grids, everything. Oh wait, it already is. This ain't just a tank, it's a trailer to the main feature. It's a teaser for the sequel they know they're not ready for. You think America wants to admit that a nation it once lectured on technology is now building war machines on par with their own. You think Europe wants to say, hey, maybe we should rethink who we're calling a developing country. No, that's why they'll always point to the flaws, to the delays, to the budget overruns. But you know what? Even their own programs have all that. Every tank, every jet, every carrier, they all bleed billions before they perform. But only India's journey is made a spectacle. You know why that is, because deep down, they fear something deeper than just the metal. They fear the asterisk momentum. Asterisk, that's right. They fear the asterisk momentum asterisk of Indian ambition, fueled not by conquest, but by confidence. Confidence that says, we no longer need your blueprint. We've got our own. That's scary. That's revolutionary, because the world was comfortable when India was soft, spoken and passive, but now India speaks through action, through innovation, through a roaring 500 horsepower tank that can flatten obstacles and expectations alike. Let me tell you something else they don't want to admit. The Arjun tank is already influencing doctrine in other nations. You think neighboring countries haven't changed how they deploy in desert zones. You think satellite coverage hasn't increased over Indian testing ranges. Come on now. You don't stare at a kitten if it can't grow into a lion. And Arjun's got the mane, the roar, and the bite. Now let's get real personal for a second. You know what makes the Arjun special beyond all the steel and software. It's the spirit in which it was built. Indian engineers didn't just sit down with blueprints. They sat down with asterisk purpose, asterisk with heart, with the fire of a civilization that's been underestimated for centuries, and finally said, enough. This tank was born out of national pride, born out of discipline, born out of a desire to never be caught off guard again. And that spirit, that's what no radar can detect. That's what no missile can destroy. You can hit the chassis, but you can't kill the asterisk cause. Asterisk, and you know what? This is just the beginning. Arjun isn't the end of the road. It's the warning sign before the storm. It's the bell that rings before the doors burst open. Because if India can master this level of war technology, while juggling software empires, space missions, and global diplomacy, then the next decade is going to look very different than the last. And not everyone's ready for that, especially not the ones who spent decades telling India to stay in its lane. But guess what? India's building its own highway now, and Arjun's leading the convoy. So when people act like they don't see the power of this tank, like it's just another gear in the global machine, don't believe the act. Behind every dismissive headline, there's a defense minister whispering to their generals, find out how they did that. Behind every half-hearted report, there's an intelligence team scrambling to decode Indian systems. And behind every smirk, there's a sweat. That's the real story. That's the truth behind why the world fears India's Arjun tank, but won't admit it. Because once you admit the Arjun is more than a tank, you have to admit India is more than a participant. You have to admit India is becoming an asterisk force. Asterisk not just economically, not just culturally, but militarily. And that's a hard pill to swallow for folks who built their careers under the assumption that the East would always follow the West. That's why they stay quiet. That's why they downplay. That's why they lie. But the Arjun doesn't care about lies. It just rolls forward, silent, steady, strong, and you better believe it's not done yet. It marked the birth of India's assertive military doctrine, backed by innovation. Arjun proves that India can win wars without borrowed firepower. For decades, India's military procurement was shaped by a defensive mindset and foreign dependency. The tanks rolled in from Russia, the jets from France, the radars from Israel, and the satellites from partnerships. It wasn't a weakness of will. It was a necessity carved out by decades of colonial exploitation and post-independence constraints. But things started shifting when India stopped seeing itself through the lens of what it couldn't do, and instead began asking, what if we build our own? What if we stop renting power and start forging it? What if the world's largest democracy becomes one of the most self-sufficient military powers? The Arjun tank wasn't just designed to move over land. It was designed to move India's mindset. This machine wasn't just a product of steel. It was born from conviction. Arjun emerged from the fire of trials, of political delays, of global skepticism. But once it hit the sands, the message was unmistakable. India doesn't need to borrow might. India doesn't need to ask for permission to be powerful. It has everything it needs: scientific talent, strategic patience, indigenous resources, and a culture that has been tempered by 5 zeros. 0 years of lessons in resilience and conflict. The day Arjun rolled out, it wasn't just a tank arriving at the battlefield. It was the flag of Indian sovereignty, forged in composite armor and ambition. Now, most of the world didn't see it coming. That's because most of the world wasn't paying attention. They were too busy looking for India in the rearview mirror, too caught up in the old image of a country that buys its weapons, not builds them. But Arjun shattered that narrative like its main gun shatters reinforced bunkers, because this tank wasn't reverse engineered. It wasn't cloned. It wasn't based on a Cold War relic. It was made for Indian needs, Indian soil, Indian soldiers. Designed by DRDO, fine-tuned through relentless testing, and upgraded with real-world feedback, the Arjun tank is not India's answer to global tanks. It's India's declaration that it plays by its own rules now. And what makes Arjun dangerous to the geopolitical status quo isn't just what it is, it's what it represents. It represents independence from supply chains controlled by allies who become adversaries overnight. It represents freedom from overpriced foreign systems loaded with conditionalities and political strings. It represents a future where India is not just a buyer in the defense marketplace, but a competitor. The moment you build your own tank that rivals or even exceeds imported models, you send shockwaves through the arms trade industry. Because when a country like India says, "Thanks, but we'll handle our own armor from here," that's $1 billion wake-up call for defense contractors who've built their empires on dependency. There's also something deeper here, something psychological. When a country shows that its soldiers are equipped with homegrown might, it boosts morale in ways foreign equipment never can. Arjun is more than a machine, it's a symbol. For every Indian tank commander who rolls out in an Arjun, there's the knowledge that his firepower wasn't given to him. It was built for him by his own people. That changes how you fight. That changes how you lead, because now you're not just defending your soil. You're doing it with your own strength, and your enemy knows that. They see that pride, and it unsettles them. They see a soldier backed by a nation that's not just fighting, but creating the means to fight. Think about it. Why do you think some nations scoff at Arjun's deployment numbers? They're not criticizing its quality. They're hoping to control the narrative, because if the world starts believing in the Arjun, truly understanding what it means, then they'll also start believing in the Indian defense industry. That's a threat. Not just militarily, but economically, because the next step after building for yourself is building for others. And if Arjun proves reliable, scalable, and adaptable, then it's not just a tank for India. It becomes a tank for allies. That undercuts global suppliers, that shifts the balance of arms diplomacy, that makes India not just a buyer in the arms bazaar, but a seller with leverage, and that's when the game changes completely. Let's also be clear, Arjun wasn't handed an easy road. It faced the full brunt of internal criticism, international mockery, budget politics, and technological sabotage. There were moments when even Indian voices doubted it. Moments when whispers said, "Let's just stick with the Russian tanks." But that's the power of conviction. India didn't back down, it iterated. It fixed what was broken. It refined the electronics, adjusted the fire control systems, balanced the armor ratio, and trained its crews from the ground up. It wasn't about ego, it was about evolution. Arjun wasn't rushed to the battlefield. It was crafted for it, and when it arrived, it wasn't to ask for validation. It was to announce independence. This shift in strategy, this move from procurement to production, is what now defines India's military confidence. And it didn't just come from one tank. It came from a series of choices. Choices to invest in missile programs like Agni and BrahMos. Choices to build nuclear submarines like INS Arihant. Choices to launch satellites that guide precision strikes. The Arjun tank sits among giants in this new family of Indian defense capability, but it carries a special weight because tanks represent ground control. They symbolize territorial dominance, and in a region as volatile as South Asia, ground dominance isn't just about firepower. It's about resolve, the resolve to never again let war be fought with someone else's weapons on your land, and that's what terrifies India's adversaries the most, because as long as you borrow firepower, your war can be paused, throttled, or even ended by your supplier. You're never truly free. You fight with someone else's sword, and if they take it back, you're disarmed. But when you build your own, the battlefield becomes yours. The decision to fight, to defend, to retaliate, it becomes yours. That's the quiet power of Arjun. That's the invisible shield it gives every Indian soldier. Not just armor, but authority. And this model is now replicating across sectors. India is now building air defense systems, space-based surveillance, electronic warfare platforms, cyber command units, all shaped by the same doctrine that birthed Arjun, a doctrine of self-reliance not as a slogan, but as a strategy. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't come from a desire to dominate. It comes from a desire to never again be dominated. India's military rise isn't aggressive, it's assertive. It's not reckless, it's resolute. Arjun wasn't born to conquer. It was born to ensure India never has to kneel. Look at how this message travels. When an Indian tank crushes the dunes of the Thar Desert, it tells Pakistan, we're prepared. When it shows up in joint drills, it tells China, we're not intimidated. When it's tested in high-altitude trials, it tells the Himalayas, we belong here. That's what indigenous firepower does. It speaks before the diplomats do. It negotiates through presence, not paragraphs, and that's something no imported tank can ever give. And here's the kicker. India isn't just building weapons. It's building an ecosystem. Every bolt in the Arjun, every circuit, every sensor, is now part of a vast network of Indian innovators, small firms, defense startups, military engineers, and research labs that form the backbone of a self-sustaining war economy. That's where true power lies, not just in the weapons themselves, but in the ability to reproduce, evolve, and adapt them endlessly. That's the long game. That's the slow, steady rise that no sanction, no embargo, no lobbyist can stop. You can feel this shift in the way India negotiates now. It no longer begs for inclusion. It sets terms. It no longer fears international scrutiny. It invites it. Because when you build your own power, you don't just defend your borders. You redefine them. Arjun is not about a war India wants. It's about the war India won't lose. And as nations scramble to maintain their technological edge, India is quietly extending its own. Upgrades to the Arjun platform are already underway. Next-gen variants, unmanned systems, drone integration, hybrid mobility, and AI-assisted targeting are being tested. And what's remarkable isn't just that India's developing these features. It's doing so on its own soil, with its own minds, under its own command. That's the part that rattles the old guard. Because for centuries, India was the market, the target, the subordinate. Now it's the innovator, the initiator, the one laying down the standard. Arjun is just the proof. The proof that the new India doesn't ask for firepower, it builds it, doesn't lease safety, it engineers it, doesn't follow the military, industrial blueprint of the West, it writes its own.